Alright, so finally back for more Zeztz, and I would have done this the week before this is going to be uploaded, but scheduling conflicts, work draining me, and also just kind of forgetting a little bit, unfortunately. It's also why I have been behind schedule with the Kabuto and Agito videos, and I also got to get back to Kuga. And that might be better to uh, do on one of my days off coming up. But yeah, so 42 and 43, a Kamen Rider Zeztz, and 42 is a very interesting episode. So we're into the home stretch after, or no, that's the next episode, with the last four remaining nightmares and the boss nightmares, basically, or gore nightmares. And this one deals with Baku um, finally defeating and getting rid of Catastrophe. And basically, um, it starts off with the lady promising, um, promising Nem, or saying to Nem that she wants to create a world where Nem can be happy and everything. That's her goal. So yeah, we see that. Then it goes to Otaka and Fujimi, where they are, or Fujimi's tailing Otaka and everything. Otaka basically he has said to the lady that, well, after he gets rid of all the technology in Code's headquarters and everything, or the blueprints for it, in the wake of the destruction of the Japanese Code HQ, um, uh, he basically has no purpose anymore. He tells the lady that now that Code's done for, he's done working for her, or he has no reason to work for her, or something like that. And she says farewell to him and everything. He basically, as he says, has nothing else to do in regards to this shit. So that's what he says to Fujimi. So he is about to toss his Nox driver into a river below when Fujimi comes up to him and takes him to a restaurant where they have a drink because Fujimi wants to still pay him back for the bet that they made about the nightmares existing. And Otaka being 100% right about the nightmares existing. So yeah, and Fujimi tries to convince him to continue using his driver to battle the nightmares and everything. But Otaka really has no interest in doing that because of the fact that, well, he got his revenge on Code. So yeah, he doesn't want to do that. Um, Baku as well. After he and Minami pay respects to Zero in the Zeztz room, um, and everything, he wants to go see Otaka as well after Fujimi reminds him that Otaka is still there after Baku says that there's no one from Code left. So, yeah. So then, what is it? Basically, uh, Baku, oh yeah, and before this, and even before the Otaka stuff, with Fujimi, um, after Baku and Minami talk about Zero and everything, and Code's destruction and all that, um, he goes out to his bedroom and he sees that Fujimi is lying in his bed and Nazca is hiding behind what looks like a yoga ball, or maybe not even a yoga ball, whatever bouncy ball toy that is. And Nazca, she talks to Baku, or she says to Baku that um, basically she reveals that she found out Kureha died, and she asks him why didn't he tell her. For one, he was busy, very busy, and two, I think it had just happened like a few days at the very least. It's really weird to gauge the time in which, or the time span in which Kamen Rider Zeztz takes place from episode, I think it's 25 to now. It seems like maybe a few weeks to maybe a month at most. Um, because like I don't know, and and before that, in the premonition dream, it seems to have taken place over the span of like maybe a maybe like 2 or 3 months is what I'm assuming. Um, so yeah, considering every episode from episode one or actually from episode 4 to 24 are two-parters, and episodes 1 to 3 are a three-part story that take place over the course of I think about 2 days. Um, and like I think each story that in the two-part thing take place over the course of about 2 days or 2 nights, and it's like yeah, unless I'm missing something. So maybe just about like, or maybe just about a month. But I'm thinking it's probably like 2 months. But yeah. Um, so yeah, but we're not given really too great of a time scale on that. But yeah. So I imagine the last several days happened um in regards to or in the span of about a week or two at most. And it's just like your memories were erased. Baku was dealing with different nightmares. He was dealing in the dream world. He was dealing with also real life shit. Um, so yeah, it's like the reason he didn't tell you is literally because he's been dealing with a lot. And luckily, I don't think she's too mad at him about it. I think she just genuinely wanted to know why he didn't tell her. Um, but yeah. Um, so so we have that shit. Um, and it's not really dealt with, unfortunately. Fujimi just tells him that, or tells her that, I'm sure he was just being kind. When it's just like, I don't know why Fujimi says that. It's just like the answer should be obvious. It's just like he's been busy. Am I missing something? Weird. Um, so yeah. So after Fujimi and Otaka go to the restaurant and everything, um, and Fujimi has the Nox driver, and he tries to convince Otaka to return to the paranormal uh, thing at uh, the police station. He tells him that he should he should return with them there and use his driver to fight the nightmares. And yeah, but Otaka really isn't too keen on that just because, well, he really doesn't have much of a purpose anymore because of the fact that he got his revenge on Code and everything. So, so yeah, sorry I'm coughing a bit. I don't know why I am. But that is basically where Otaka is standing on that. And when he's walking away, he senses Baku tailing him, so he just tells him just tell him what he's thinking. And Baku says that they're the only ones left in terms of code and everything. Um, and like, they're the only ones that can fight the nightmares and everything. But Otaka puts it or throws it back at him, saying, "You're the only one who's left because Baku's the only one that's been giving himself missions to fight the nightmares and everything." And I think Baku kind of realizes that he's right. But yeah. Um, but at that moment, we get a few things. So earlier on, we had Catastrophe vowing to basically he says he hasn't had a chance to devour his, I don't know, I can't remember what he says, but it's maybe something like prey or whatever. Basically, he hasn't fused with Baku at all. So something I didn't realize until I think more recently is the fact that what happened with Baku to where he when he got the Catastrom Capsum and he became single-mindedly determined to take down Code and everything, and he also took on the full Code Number 7 persona and everything in episodes 23 and 24. Um, that was him fusing with Catastrophe, I think a bit unintentionally, but yeah, because he says, "Give me your power" and everything, and I think Catastrophe used that to as a sign to fuse with Baku, which I also gotta say, like, is Nox fused with his Nightmare? That's the only thing I can think of. But yeah. But that was just in the premonition dream. Um, this is different from that. Even though Baku still has the Catastrom Capsum, which is weird, um, he hasn't fused with Catastrophe. So Catastrophe goes to fight Baku. And so I think the lady is the one to turn off the Nox driver and drives, or gets rid of most of the color from it, takes it offline and everything. And so he kicks Otaka away and I think knocks him out. Then he kicks Baku away and knocks him out and knocks him into the dream, or the dream world. Uh, and he has a bit of a speech or a monologue to Baku about um, Baku wanting more power makes him more powerful, and um, basically uh, he says that he says to Baku, if you want more power, because Baku says something to him about whatever, and he says to Baku, if you want more power, we could fuse, and we could take down or destroy or whatever all the stuff your father forced on you. And he also says to Baku that since he was born, he was instinctually aware of what his father would task him to do somehow. Um, so yeah. Um, and then it looks like Baku maybe considers it for a second, and then Catastrophe uses that as an opening to, or just thinks about it for a second, and then Catastrophe dives into Baku's chest, which allows him to transport to the Dream World version of the Zeztz room. And so Baku then wakes up, tells Fujimi to take care of Otaka, and then runs all the way back to his apartment building. And but he's a bit too late, and Catastrophe just blew up the Zeztz room, and it resulted in the real one blowing up and um, basically destroying most of their apartment, his and Minami's. So he's worried about if Minami died, because it showed her in the Zeztz room while he was away. But it's then shown that she is fine. I guess she got out of the Zeztz room before that. So she wasn't affected too badly by the blast. But she still has, like, soot all over her face and everything. And Baku's just really, really relieved to see that she is still alive. So then, Baku then resolves himself to defeat Catastrophe. He says dreams surpass nightmares, which earlier in the episode he basically shits on himself by saying, some agent, I can't even speak English, which for some reason that's important to him, but okay. He then puts on his driver, loads up the Extreme Capsum, and then uses it to go into the dream world, and then transforms into Zeztz Extreme and starts fighting Catastrophe, because, as he says, he can't let Catastrophe wreck the room, or wreck the Zeztz room. And so they're transported to the, like, abandoned building that they use for fights in this show, and and Catastrophe basically is like both countering and dodging Baku's moves, as well as getting some powerful hits on Baku himself. And Baku uses Extreme's powers to rewind the clock and go back to before Extreme got one of his punches off, and basically resolves to keep using it, as he says, until it lets him win. And basically, as he starts using it more, his like I think the form starts glitching out a bit, but then he keeps using it. Slowly, the color, I believe, is drained from the picture and everything, until he gets to a place where Catastrophe is breaking apart, and then he loads up the energy in the driver, and does the Great Banish Rider kick and destroys Catastrophe. So, yeah. Um, so we have that shit and everything. Um, and I think the other three Gore Nightmares are aware of that. The is it the Oblivion Nightmare? I think it's the Oblivion one, the one that Nem created. Because I think Zeke, I think Nem remembers something that Zeke said or something like that, or Zeke, where basically, yeah, it's Oblivion. Basically, or maybe it's actually no, it's in a future episode. It's in episode 44, which I did watch before recording this, but I'm not covering that right now. But yeah, I know it's that because it's Naruto's Japanese voice actress, um, just doing really maniacal laughs and everything. Uh, so yeah, um, and basically, that's basically where the episode ends, as Oblivion erases Catastrophe's throne while laughing, and the lady sees it and is looks like they're uneasy about it, and yeah. So I gotta say, really good episode and a really good way to close the door on that chapter with the Zero stuff, where Baku avenged Zero and everything from uh from Catastrophe killing him and everything. Um and also good suspense. I like how they wrote and directed and edited the episode to where there's a lot of suspense, where you don't know if Minami died or not, from the explosion. I don't really think that they would do that, but yeah. I'm trying to think. And the whole stuff with Otaka and everything, the fact that he's still shown as very morally gray. He's still an anti-villain because of the fact that, like, he was single-mindedly very determined to take down Code and everything, to the point where he doesn't really give too much of a shit about dealing with the nightmares anymore, even though, he knows at least some of what's going on with them. He just seems to not have a purpose in life, and he doesn't. I don't know. It's kind of like Plankton in. There was an episode of SpongeBob, I believe, where he was just. Where he's asked. I think he either gets rid of crabs or ties them up or something like that to get the formula, and then someone asks him what now, and then he's just like, I don't know. I never thought I'd get this far. And yeah, that just seems to be where Nox is at, or Otaka, where he's just like, yeah, I don't know I don't know what I'm gonna do next. I don't really have much of a purpose anymore, because I was, he literally single-mindedly devoted himself to the cause of Code and then Code's destruction for years. So it's like, yeah, uh, I would think one of the things I'm kind of thinking about just now is like, why didn't they why don't they just have a thing where Otaka explains like his backstory to Baku? Because you would think that like that now would be the time for that, you know. But I don't know. Maybe that's just me. But yeah. I don't really have too much else to say. But really good episode. I also like the visual effects and everything. The fact that they kept using the Zeztz extreme powers and visuals and everything looked pretty good. Even though there was a bit of reused footage when they didn't need to, where Baku kept like diving into the ground when it formed like a puddle after he used the extreme powers to rewind time. Um, but that's just mainly maybe a me thing and maybe just a Toku thing. But yeah, um, I do like that Baku got rid of his nightmare finally and everything. I wonder what that means for the Catastrom capsum. But granted, the fact that he really shouldn't have it anymore is already kind of a paradox and doesn't make any sense. But whatever. Um, granted, I guess the logic is he got it from another form of reality um from the premonition dream. So I don't know. But yeah, um yeah, I don't really have too much else to say on this one. So let's move on to the next. All right, so episode 43 and really good one. Just honestly, just good for like character development of Sieg and also a furthering of the stuff with everything else in the plot. So yeah, and it balances it pretty well. So basically, the B plot has to deal with Otaka going to the house where the lady was keeping Nem and Fujimi following him and them like seeing that the house is basically not ransacked but kind of like just what is the word? Basically just run down. There we go. Run down, and doesn't look like anyone's been living there for a while. Plus the doorway, I believe, to the dream world, or if it was like a doorway like Baku's in the Zeztz room to get to different places around the world. Looks like it's just going on the fritz, and a friend of mine said I would unironically use a phrase like that the other day. But basically, it's just like shitting the bed and everything, changing different views and everything. And then, I'm trying to think. And then, like, I think then we see the door that was, or the window between the real world and the dream world. And, basically, yeah, it just shows that the lady took everything that was in there, including Nem, because when Fujimi gets there and sees everything for himself, he notes a bedroom and he says that's where uh, Nem was being kept, right? What did you do with her? And uh, Otaka says nothing. Um, and I think he says she was basically just taken. So we have a thing with uh, the lady taking Nem's like IRL body to a different location and everything after Otaka left and stopped working for her and everything. I'm assuming just so he couldn't free Nem before she did, or she enacted her plans and everything. So, yeah. So then, in the dream world, we see Nem, because, or more so, we see, Punish. He is getting up and, basically at the behest of the lady, telling him to, uh, go do his shit. He takes off, and he starts in the dream world, um, at what looks like what do you call it? I'm trying to remember what it's called. Um, the place in England that's like ruins and all that. That's like these stone statues that are in a circle and shit that no one really knows where the hell they came from or why they're standing or whatever. I can't remember what that place is called, but that. Well, it looks like that. With people being chained up in the dream world to the pillars and everything. Stonehenge? I think it's Stonehenge. Yeah, yeah, it's Stonehenge. And and the and Punish creates um a nightmare linked to him that is turning people in the dream to stone, and I believe also killing them in real life. Nem and Baku get there. Baku's alerted to that by Kureha when she tells him about what's going on in the dream world, and then Baku uses the extreme capsule to enter the dream world again and starts working to free all the people. Nem then gets there as well and starts to help. She even starts to awaken her lucid dreaming powers by breaking some of the chains on some of the people, but it's not really helping after a bit because the chains just keep reappearing and the people can't wake up as a result of that. Baku is keeping the nightmare the spawn thing like busy while Nem goes to confront Zeztz about it, and she like brings him in and says that it's his uh, it's his nightmare. He should help deal with it. He refuses at first, but when she goes away and then confronts Punish by herself, and also like awakens some of her lucid dreaming powers again, and crushes the eye on his, I think it's a Reaper staff basically, or a scythe, and it breaks the eye on it, which gets rid of the nightmare that Baku is fighting, which Baku can't normally defeat that nightmare because he tries with the absolute banish, and it just reconstitutes itself. So yeah, so he's just basically holding it up while Nem does what she's doing. But when Punish fires an energy blast at her, Zeztz pushes her out of the way, and the blast just goes right through his chest. But because Zeztz is he's basically himself, just a dream spirit at this point. It seems like he died in the real world and just became a dream spirit at some point. Unless if I'm mistaken, but that seems to be what they're going with because they're not really implying anything else. They're not implying he's still alive in the real world and everything. Nor is he in a coma, nor anything like that. So I don't know. He's basically unaffected, but he still has a gaping hole in his chest. He got gaped by Punish. Probably not how he wanted to, but who knows? So, so then, he, basically, he challenges Punish to a fight, and Punish tells him, "You know why I got bored with you? It's because you didn't want to cause bad dreams. You had a bad or you had a dream of bad dreams, basically, some shit like that." basically we get more of his backstory in that he was born into the crime family that we saw that his father led in a previous episode, um, where we see more of Zeke's backstory and everything. And even as a kid, he had white hair, which I gotta say, the special effects that they used to recolor the kid's hair, uh, not great. You can still tell it's special effects hair recoloring because it goes from what I assume the kid's natural hair color is, which is it has to be black because he's Japanese, to um to completely white. It's like it's not on screen for he's not on screen for that long, but at the same time, it's like it is horribly noticeable. I'm just like, there's spray on hair dye, so that doesn't last long and washes out when like you wash your hair. So don't really understand why they just didn't use something like that. Maybe the kid's parents didn't want him to, but like it would have looked better than what they did. Considering that Z's actor is using hair dye, it would be whatever. I don't know. But yeah, and basically with him being born into the crime family he was in, he had no choice but to commit crimes and all that shit. Um, and because of the family he was born into, it basically left him with nothing in regards to a normal upbringing. So that's how he became so messed up and everything. So yeah. So then Baku gets there. Like when Sieg pushed Nem out of the way, Baku tried to save her, but he would have been too late, and so he caught Nem and everything. And also, something I didn't notice when I was watching the live stream of the episode, but noticed on a rewatch with the VOD that Shout Factory uploaded to the Tokusatsu YouTube channel. Nem when so Sieg basically pointed his sword at Nem, and she like caught it in her hand. Um, and then when it comes to punish, the inside of her palm of her hand is bleeding when she like bunches up her hand into a fist. And when I was watching the live stream, I thought that was because of something Punish did, but no, it's from Sieg's swords. And I just genuinely did not catch the first time I watched this episode that was what was going on. Um, so yeah, it's just kind of one of those subtle things that, unless if you're really paying attention, you don't pick up on. Not that I wasn't paying attention during the live stream, I just didn't catch that. Um, so yeah, so then, um, uh, Punish locks up Baku and Nem in a basically an Iron Maiden, I think, and then like kind of like what Sieg did to Nem in the previous episode, and Sieg resolves himself to take on Punish, so he loads up his capsum into his swords, breaks them apart, but then drops them on the ground. The purple dragon that usually comes out when he transforms comes out of the swords and circles him, and he touches it and transforms it into more of an orange or fiery like dragon. So yeah, so that's actually pretty cool. And he transforms into his Dawn form, which nothing's really changed there in terms of the design or the color scheme or anything. But he starts fighting Punish without his swords at first, and Punish unfortunately puts up a good fight. Um, but then Sieg swipes the extreme capsum from Baku, loads it into his sword and everything, and Baku basically just holds out his fist to like bump fists with Sieg, and so does Nem. But then when Sieg is putting up his fist, he then flicks Baku's fist, and he's just like, Baka, basically just calling him a dummy. And so then he loads up the capsum into his sword and starts. He does like a really cool like anime sort of like I don't know, Buster Sword kind of finisher from Final Fantasy VII Remake um, on Punish, which weakens him a bit. And so he fights with swords and everything. But then he raises up into the air and puts the extreme capsum in the open like circle on his chest armor, drops his swords and loads up the extreme and basically does a rider kick with his own finisher and everything and kills off Punish. He then transforms back to normal, goes back to Baku and Nem, gives him back the extreme capsum, and basically just goes off like it's just nonchalantly just goes off and everything. But then also warns them that they're going to have a hell of a bad dream coming up because he, at the very least, knows something about what's coming. So, yeah. And also, in terms of, like, fighting Punish, I think it's Baku who says that Sieg is fighting to get the heart he lost back. So, we have that. So then we see the lady with Oblivion, and she starts to step up her plan for Nem and everything. Baku, we see him get a call on his Zeztz phone. Then he goes back to the real world, picks up his phone, and it's Fujimi. He tells him that he's found the place where Nem was being held. Baku asks if Nem is okay, but then Fujimi says that she's not there anymore. So, yeah. So then the lady has Oblivion use Code Somnia to make a bunch of white petals come down. It hits Nem, or it starts disappearing objects, and then it hits Nem, and it transforms her clothes into the white gown that she was wearing in the lady's hideout, as well as some other dreams and everything, or some other episodes that she's appeared in. And then we just see that in action and everything. So, yeah. Something I forgot to mention earlier as well is at the beginning of the episode when Baku's in the Zeztz room is that he dresses up in the code number 7 clothes, thinking that he's still in the dream world, but he's actually not. Minami actually comes in and asks him why he changed, and he's just like, because I'm in the dream world. And she's like, no, you're not. This is the real world. And he's just like, what? But I spoke English like that. And it's just like, it's okay, that's a continuing like joke, is the fact that Baku is so committed to the bit when it comes to being an agent that he doesn't really, that like he gets reality and the dream world confused due to the fact that he can speak English in the dreams and not really in real life. But I don't know, it's really dumb. But like, you can also tell it's the real world as well, because for one, his actor isn't wearing the contacts that he usually wears that make his eyes brown or more brown. I think it's more like a chestnut brown or whatever, or just a lighter brown than his eyes normally are. And then they didn't dye his hair the like partial brown that it is in the dream world, and they didn't give him the like Superman like curl in his hair, as well as the fact that when he's wearing the Zeztz clothes, they don't give him the extra muscle padding like he has in the dream world. I'm just honestly very surprised he didn't look into a mirror and realize that like he doesn't have the extra like things. And it's really weird when Minami points out to him that he's not in the dream world. He even like feels on his hair that to see if the curl is there, and it's just not. So it's like, bro. But he is kind of getting lost in the sauce when it comes to that shit. So yeah. Um, I will just say the fight between Sieg and Punish is really, really damn cool. I love the like special effects. I love a lot of the choreography in the fights. And everything. I like the sword fighting that Sieg does. I love the finisher that they give him for the, or not even like finisher, but like the multiple like slash his for like the sword or the swords and shit that he has, for his like dual wielding, and it's just really really cool. Um, that that Sieg has that, and the fact that he swiped the extreme capsule and it gives him the extra power boost he needs. I think that's really, really cool. Initially, I thought that Baku gave it to him when I was watching the stream, but rewatching it, no, he just swipes it from Baku, and he's just like, "I'm borrowing this." It's just funny. Um, so yeah. Another thing is, I watched Dawson Ryder's review on this episode, and he mentioned how it seems like the showrunners are or the writers are trying to redeem Sieg. I personally don't see it as them trying to redeem him. Sieg is what you call an anti-villain. He is an antagonist, but he's on his own side. Um, and yeah, and Zeke is basically the Joker of this series. He is an agent of chaos. And so he very much is still that, and I've seen the next episode. I'm going to talk about that in the next podcast episode, but like he he definitely is on his own side still. He's not a good guy, and even though we do get his backstory and more of his backstory and everything, and more of just the reason why he's like how he is, they don't really do anything. And even though he does fight and kill Punish, um, he doesn't really get redeemed. I wouldn't say that that's a redeeming moment for him. That's just him taking care of unfinished business and still being selfish in his reasonings for doing what he's doing. Because yeah, even though I know that Baku separated him from Punish to have him be able to change, he's mainly just changing in the fact that he's willing to do certain things now that he wasn't before when he was fused with Punish. Now that he's not fused with him, he's more willing to do certain things. Um, and this is a meaningful change for the better, but like he's still on his own side, and he's not willing to like fully like become a good guy. So I wouldn't say this is a redemption for him. This is more so just explaining why he is how he is, and just him still being him, but going in a slightly new direction. Because the next episode has him acting like his old self still, and the fact that he doesn't really want to help them with stuff that's going on in the next episode is just, yeah. So I don't think it's a redemption for him. I think it's just moving the character in an interesting sort of direction, you know. So yeah, I think he needs a lot more before he can be like fully redeemed, because he's killed a lot of people. He caused a lot of shit towards Baku, and he's still not really a good person. So it's like, yeah, it's genuinely just going to be a lot to see if he actually gets redeemed, but I don't think they're going to redeem him. I'm not going to lie. But yeah. So that's just basically my thoughts on that. So yeah, 2 good episodes back to back. I think 43 was definitely better than 42, but 42 was still good. Um, so yeah, guys, I don't really have much else to say on this. So yeah, can't wait for more episodes. The next episode is basically kind of like a clip show. 44 is basically a clip show, so not much in the way of actual plot stuff there. Um, but I will discuss it in the next podcast episode. So yeah, guys, for the YouTube upload, links in the description, all my shit. Subscribe if you want, and I'll see you guys in the next one.